Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're opening up something pretty profound. It's this set of reflections, really, about a father's legacy. And it kind of boils down to this one phrase, once a man, twice a child. A bit haunting, maybe.
It really is. And, it's more than just a saying. The sources make it clear this was like an operating manual he was giving his child for life.
An operating manual, I like that.
Yeah, because he was so intentional. This wasn't just random advice. It was a whole framework, for understanding the big picture, the transitions. Honestly, he sounds like a remarkable forward thinker.
Okay, so let's unpack this, our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We want to pull out the key insights here. Three main things we're focusing on.
Right.
First, that phrase itself, once a man, twice a child, and how the meaning suddenly became clear, that aha moment.
Got it.
Second, this analogy he used, the bookends of life. Really visual.
Very powerful metaphor, yeah.
And finally, the practical side. The wisdom about being self-sufficient, planning ahead, basically how to live well between those bookends.
Exactly. Think of this as like a philosophical cheat sheet. It gives you that long view of the whole human arc so that you, listening right now, can maybe optimize these independent years a bit more, Use that wisdom proactively.
All right, let's start right at the beginning then. The actual word, the source material gives us the exact phrase, and it lands with a certain gravity. He said, once a man, twice a child. Louvel.
That middle name, Louvel, that's not accidental, is it?
No, it feels crucial.
It totally changes it. It's not just some abstract saying anymore. It becomes personal. It's like he's saying, listen, this is for you. This isn't just philosophy. This is your reality, your future. Makes it stick, Weighted is the perfect word.
And yet, like so much advice we get when we're young, right? The author admits that for years it was just this peculiar paternal mantra.
Yeah, like something your dad just says.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The meaning just wasn't there. It was probably filed under dad being dad, not like essential life knowledge. It hadn't clicked.
But then comes the realization, and what's interesting is how it's described. Not slow, not gradual. It was sudden. A literal mental click.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful moment, isn't it? When your own life experience finally unlocks the wisdom someone tried to give you years ago, it's like hearing it fresh, even though the words have been rattling around in your head forever.
And that click, that sudden clarity, what did it reveal? The core truth. Life is cyclical, the whole human experience.
Right, starts with dependence.
Yep, as a child.
Yeah.
Then you move into that peak period, independence, vitality, the man stage, let's call it.
The crime years.
But then, inevitably, the cycle completes. It circles back. The ultimate return to a state of vulnerability and reliance in old age. Back to being like a child again. Twice a child.
It's sobering, for sure, but also incredibly simple. It just lays out the map. Here's the start, here's the middle, here's the end.
And that clarity kind of forces you to think, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It defines the start and end points. So immediately, your focus shifts. If the beginning and end are sort of fixed in terms of dependency, what really matters, it's the quality, the content of those decades in between.
Yeah.
How well you navigate that middle stretch.
Which brings us to the second big piece.
Yeah.
That visualization tool he offered. The bookends of life.
Yes, this is brilliant. It gives physical shape to this abstract life cycle.
How did he frame it?
So imagine your life, all your experiences, memories, lessons learned, they're like books on a shelf.
Okay.
And holding them all up are two bookends. When you're young, you're standing right there at the first bookend, looking forward.
But your view is limited.
Extremely limited. You see maybe the next few books, the near future, but you have no real concept of the whole shelf, the full journey, as the source puts it. You just can't grasp the end from that starting point.
That classic youthful inability to see consequences or even imagine an end, really. It's all forward drive.
Exactly. But then, fast forward. You reach the later years, you become the final bookend, in a way. And from there,
You can look back.
you can look back over everything. The history of all the books, you see the whole collection, the accumulated experiences, the wisdom that ties it all together. You finally get the perspective.
And the sources say this perspective brings a pretty stark realization, too.
It does. You realize that you, the individual, you're just an ephemeral chapter. Like one book on that shelf. Important, yes, but part of a much larger library. And eventually, your story concludes. You become that final bookend yourself, holding up the history you lived.
Wow. That really reframes things. All the stuff that feels so huge right now. The striving, the learning, the loving,
All
achieving.
of it. It happens within that defined space, between those two supports. The bookends give life shape, definition, but they also subtly tell you to make those chapters, those books, count. There's an implicit pressure there.
Make the content worthwhile.
Absolutely. The whole focus shifts to the quality of the story you're writing between the start and the finish. It's almost an imperative to, act meaningfully. Which leads us right into the practical stuff. How did he advise living well in that middle section?
Yeah, this is where his foresight really seems incredible. The sources call it one of his greatest gifts. He was preparing the author for his own absence, but way before death was even on the horizon.
That's key.
It wasn't about coping with grief, necessarily. It was about building radical self-sufficiency, equipping them to stand alone.
And that, I think, is a really profound way to think about legacy. It's not just about what you leave behind, money, property, whatever. It's about how capable you leave the people you care about to thrive without you, empowering the next generation, truly.
Okay, but here's a potential tension, isn't there? How do you push for that kind of fierce independence while still acknowledging we all need support? We need connection. Seems contradictory.
But that's the nuance in his approach. It's quite layered, actually, based on the sources. He gave sort of two parallel instructions about strength.
Okay.
First, he grounded the author. He pointed to the mother and said, basically, she's the strongest person in my life.
So acknowledge the external support, the safety net.
Precisely. Recognize that powerful family bond, that emotional anchor. But at the same time, the demand was clear. You need to cultivate your own strength, intrinsic strength, that inner resilience you need when the net isn't there or can't help.
Dual preparedness.
Exactly. Rely on family, yes, but build your own engine first and foremost. And it wasn't just barked orders. It sounds like this accountability came with real affection.
And it went beyond just emotional resilience, right? The sources mentioned specifics about responsibility, integrity, what was expected of a man. This feels less philosophical, more like a code of conduct.
Yeah, it shifts into character building. Integrity seems to be presented as like the spine holding your personal book together. It's about commitment, sticking to the ethical standard he set, even when it's tough.
Sounds demanding.
It probably was, but the sources also mention these natural deviations towards self-actualization. It suggests it wasn't about being perfect.
Okay.
The journey wasn't a straight line. But the crucial thing was the direction. Always moving towards that ideal responsibility, character, self-management. Keep striding for it.
So continuous effort, not static perfection. That makes sense. Still sounds potentially exhausting, though.
Right. But there's this lovely grounding detail included, all that striving, all that work on inner strength. It was periodically validated by the simple, necessary comfort of a kiss and hug.
That's important.
It's critical. It shows that strength and self-sufficiency aren't the whole picture. They're necessary, but not enough on their own. You still need connection. You need fuel. He acknowledged the hard work with pure, simple affection. It's like saying, yes, build this inner fortress, but remember, it's meant to protect a life that includes warmth and love.
That makes the whole endeavor feel more human, sustainable. Okay, let's connect this back to the main phrase, once a man, twice a child, using that contrast the sources draw between youth and adulthood. It seems almost trivial, but it's revealing.
It really shows the cycle in action. Think about being young, you're growing, you're full of energy. Do you spend any mental bandwidth on, say, losing weight?
No, definitely not.
Or contemplating the gravity of mortality? Of course not. Your body, your mind, they just work effortlessly. Because they haven't felt the wear and tear yet.
But then you cross that line into proper adulthood, those middle years, and the rules change.
Totally. The sources say the weight of responsibility arrives. Career, family, finances, all that external pressure. And at the same time, the internal weight arrives too. The need to actively maintain your body and mind.
It's not automatic anymore.
Exactly right. That conscious, deliberate effort to stay healthy physically and mentally. It becomes necessary precisely because you've glanced over your shoulder and acknowledged that final bookend is out there. You're essentially investing in your future dependent self.
Okay. Preparing for the eventual return to vulnerability.
By maximizing the strength and vitality you have now during the independent years.
Yeah. So it all comes back around. That statement, once a man, twice a child. It's not just a warning about getting old and needing help. It's more active than that.
Much more. It's a silent imperative, as the source calls it.
A silent imperative.
Yeah, it's demand, really. Make the absolute most of these middle decades, this period of peak autonomy, because you know it's finite. That time, that capability, it's non-renewable. Use it well.
So if you really take that cyclical view, dependence, independence, back to dependence, it changes how you approach everything in the middle, doesn't it?
Fundamentally, every choice about your health, your time, your resources, it gets reframed. You stop taking good health for granted. You see it as like an investment fund you're building for your future self, your older, more vulnerable self.
Which puts a huge emphasis on foresight, on continuous self-improvement, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The big lesson seems to be you have to cultivate self-sufficiency, character, health, all of it, doing your strongest years, because you know what's potentially coming. You're preparing yourself for later.
In that preparation, that's an act of responsibility. It's integrity in action. It's making sure that when your final chapter arrives, when you become that final bookend, it's holding up a history, a set of books that you wrote consciously, diligently, and with care.
Wow. Okay, so let's leave our listeners with this final thought drawn from the sources. It really ties the philosophy and the humanity together. That journey the father set out towards strength, towards responsibility, it was validated by something simple, the necessary comfort of a kiss and hug.
The human element.
So if life is the series of chapters between two bookends, and it's sustained by both that inner strength and that human connection, what kind of validation, what kind of essential comfort are you seeking and storing up right now? What will sustain the history of your books when they're finally closed? Something to think about.